Okay, everyone, so in this next lesson, let's talk about the do-while loop. So the do-while loop is going to be looping through a block of code once and then repeats the loop as long as the specified condition is true. So it will be executing the block of code at least once, and that's the difference between a do-while loop and the while loop. So just have that in mind. It's almost similar with the while loop. However, it will be executing the code inside of the loop always at least once. Just wanting to remember, the loop will be executed at least once, even if the condition inside of the loop is initially false. So let's look into some examples here, and let's try to initialize a counter variable. So let's have a variable I, and let's give it a value of 1. And then let's start the do while loop. And we start with the do keyword and then a code block. And we will be having this line of code will be executed at least once. Let's start to have an echo. The value of I is, and let's have a line break here. Then we want to increment the value at least once, and then we want to check the loop condition from where we have the while keyword, and then the condition from where we will check if it's less than or equal to 5. So remember that this loop will be continuing as long as the condition here is true. So what are we going to see inside of our browser? If I scroll down, we do see here the value of I is 1, the value of I is 2, the value of I is 3, 4, and 5, and so on. Okay, so let's just do some testing here. As I mentioned, we will be executing this line of code at least once, even if the condition that we have is going to be false. So we have here is less than or equal to 5. So let's have 10 here. Supposedly, we should still be seeing the first line, the value of I is 1. As you can see here, the value of I is 10. And just take note, I just replaced 1 with 10, and we did see that it is still executed. And then when we try to increment it, we know that the loop condition is going to be false because 10 is greater than the number 5. And it is not equal to 5. So I hope that that gave you a bit of an idea with the do while loop. Something to take note of is that we can also try to utilize the same syntax. So let's echo here HR. And let's paste this one. And let's say I'm just going to say this is going to be 15. And we will be having here an if statement. And we can also use here. So let's say I would want to check if the value of I is equal to 3. Or let's say 5. Then we use the break statement. Similar with the while loop, we can try to see that this is going to be breaking or stopping the execution of the code block. Similar with how the while loop works. So let's try to see. We do see the value of I is 15, and it should be, let's say I would want it to be less than, or let's say I would want, let's have here 20, and let's have that. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Let's just say, let's have this one, and then this one is going to be 5, and let's have 10 here. And let's see. So we do get 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, similar with how we dealt with the issue of the 5 not being displayed, we can see that we can also print out the same approach on how we did it here in the while loop. We just printed it out after the execution of the loop. The current value as we try to increment the value of our variable I here. And again, this is just going to be similar with the continue statement. So let's have echo here. Let's remove some of the comments here. We already utilized that. So let me just clean this up a bit. And in here, we want to start with 0. And instead of break, we want to use the continue statement. And we want to check. And we want to increment it first. Then echo, then the value of I. Let's see what's going to be produced. And we are from 0 to 10, and we should be able to skip. This should skip number 5. And let's see. And we do see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is missing, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it continued. When we reach this condition, we skipped the number 5, and then we continued working with the loop until we reach the value of 10. So that's the do while loop. It will be executing at least once. That's the main difference between the while loop. And we do see that we can also utilize the break statement while using the do while loop, similar with how we work with the while loop.